Good morning, dear friends, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship at Stony Brook. All of us here in the sanctuary welcome you who are joining us online. Let's wave good morning at the cameras. I welcome you who are here in our sanctuary and all who are attending virtually, wherever you may be this morning. My name is Wendy Engelhardt, and I am happy to be your worship associate this morning. Our interim minister is the Reverend Dr. Madelyn Campbell, and our director of religious education is Deb Little. Please plan to join us after the service for coffee and conversation. For those of us who are online, if you sign off after the service and return to our website, you'll find the link for joining our small group chats. Whether here or online, you'll find some friendly folks who can answer any questions you may have. Today we are exploring interdependence and pluralism, which reminds me, enter awkward segue here, that on behalf of the worship associates, I am pleased to announce what you've been all waiting for a really long time, this summer service topic reveal. Can I get a shared drum roll on your lap, please? We are calling for your insight, your words of wisdom, and your proposals for the 2024 summer service theme, My Spiritual Story. Not my spiritual story, but your spiritual story, but you knew that. From start to finish, you'll create and then share a service for the congregation, but I promise you, you won't be alone. A member of the WA committee will be with you every step of the way. So please refer to upcoming newsletters for details.
Come, enter into this space made holy by our presence. Enter into this hour made holy by our intention. We are many and we are one. Let us recognize our interconnectedness as we enter in and worship together.
I have asked Janet Kazez-Garrison and Michael Caravella to light our chalice this morning. The flaming chalice is the symbol of Unitarian Universalism. We kindle the flame of our faith in the cup of our covenant with the chalice lighting words by Reverend Jennifer Grayson entitled, Drawn Together. We come together every week, bound not by creed or a mutual desire to please one God or many gods, yet we are drawn together by a belief that how we are in this world, who we are together, matters. We light this chalice together in the knowledge that love, not fear, can change the world. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit and join in singing hymn number 159 in your gray hymnal, This is My Home, number 159.
Good morning, beloveds. Thank you for joining us here on the first day of the Long Island ski break. I come from the Midwest. I don't understand it. I've been here 30 years. I still don't understand it. But I'm glad to see those of you who ventured out in this very cold day. So the topic this morning is interdependence and pluralism, which are two more values in the proposed revision of Article 2 of the UUA bylaws. Today's Time for All Ages celebrates pluralism and our embrace of differences and commonalities. The story's called Room on the Broom, and even though it involves a witch, it's not a Halloween story. So the witch had a cat and a hat that was black and long ginger hair in a braid down her back. How the cat purred, and how the witch grinned as they sat on their broomstick and flew through the wind. But how the witch wailed, and how the cat spat when the wind blew so wildly it blew off the hat, kind of like today. Down cried the witch, and they flew to the ground. They searched for the hat, but no hat could be found. Then, out of the bushes on thundering paws, there bounded a dog with a hat in its jaws. He dropped it politely, then eagerly said as the witch pulled the hat firmly down on her head, "I am a dog as keen as can be. Is there room on the broom for a dog like me?" "Yes," cried the witch, and the dog clambered on. The witch tapped the broomstick, and whoosh, they were gone. Over the fields and forests they flew. The dog wagged his tail, and the stormy wind blew. The witch laughed out loud and held on to her hat, but away blew the bow from her braid, just like that. Down cried the witch, and they flew to the ground, and they searched for the bow, but no bow could be found. Then out from a tree with an ear-splitting shriek, there flapped a green bird with the bow in her beak. She dropped it politely and bent her head low, then said as the witch tied the braid to her bow, "I'm a bird as green as can be. Is there room on the broom for a bird like me?" "Yes," cried the witch. So the bird fluttered on. The witch tapped the broomstick, and whoosh, they were gone. Over the reeds and the rivers they flew. The bird shrieked with glee, and the stormy wind blew. They shot through the sky to the back of beyond. The witch clutched her bow, but let go of her wand. Down cried the witch, and they flew to the ground. They searched for the wand, but no wand could be found. Then all of a sudden, from out of a pond, leaped a dripping wet frog with a dripping wet wand. He dropped it politely, then said with a croak, as the witch dried the wand on a fold of her cloak, "I am frog as clean as can be. Is there room on the broom for a frog like me?" "Yes," cried the witch, so the frog bounded on. The witch tapped the broomstick, and whoosh, they were gone. Over the moors and the mountains they flew. The frog jumped for joy, and the broom snapped in two. Down fell the cat and the dog and the frog. Down they went tumbling into a bog. The witch's half broomstick flew into a cloud, and the witch heard a roar that was scary and loud. "I am dragon as mean as can be, and you, witch, look like a good supper to me." "No," cried the witch, flying higher and higher. The dragon flew after her, breathing out fire. "Help!" cried the witch, flying down to the ground. She looked all around, but no help could be found. The dragon planned to begin his feast, but out of a ditch rose a horrible beast. It was tall and dark and sticky and feathered and furred. It had 4 frightful heads. It had wings like a bird. And its terrible voice, when it started to speak, was a yowl, growl, croak, shriek. Sorry, that one was loud. The dragon drew back and he started to shake. "I'm sorry," he spluttered. "I made a mistake. It's nice to have met you, but now I must fly." He spread out his wings and was off through the sky. Then down flew the bird, and down jumped the frog. Down climbed a cat, and "Phew," said the dog. "Thank you, oh thank you," the grateful witch cried. "Without you, I'd be in the dragon's inside." Then she filled up her cauldron and said with a grin, "Find something, everyone. Throw something in." They threw some things in, and the witch stirred them well, and while she was stirring, she muttered a spell. "Iggity, ziggity, zackety, zoom!" Then out rose a truly magnificent broom, with seats for the witch and the cat and the dog, a nest for the bird, and a pool for the frog. "Yes," cried the witch, and they all clambered on. The witch tapped the broomstick, and whoosh, they were gone. Amen. They did? It's a great book. I wish I had a broomstick like that. So now I invite you all to turn to the very back of your hymnals for the Reeves Children's Benediction. Would my elementary teachers, thank you, Katie and Michelle, go to the door. Elementary, Garrett, would you go, and I'm going to join you. And the high school group will meet after or during coffee hour after we get a snack. So please, everyone, begin singing the Reeves Children's Benediction, and the children will wait at the door and then go out after they've listened to you. Thank you.
Now it's our time for a moment of meditation. Following our meditation in word, we will sit in silence for a minute, and then we will sing hymn number 123, Spirit of Life. You are invited to come up here and light a candle during the service today, symbolizing a joy or sorrow in your life. You might wish to do it during meditation or perhaps during the offering. I wrote a guided meditation for you this morning entitled Love, a Guided Imagery. For this brief time of meditation, I'd like to begin by asking you to please get comfortable in your chairs. Place both feet flat on the floor. Lay your hands on your lap, palms facing up. And if you desire, gently close your eyes. Next, please, let's take a long, deep, cleansing breath together before we begin. Now allow me to share an image with you. Imagine that you are standing at the top of a beautifully green, elevated bluff. The air is warm, the sky is clear, and you are enveloped in the serenity of the moment. Below you is a series of creeks and small rivers, all flowing from a variety of directions, sparkling as if littered with gems as the afternoon sun glistens off the water. It's so quiet here that you can hear the gurgling and splashing of the water below. You notice that some creeks and rivers travel over and around fallen trees, large boulders, and wind around turns and bends, while others have easier journeys, straight and without interference. You're immediately curious where each path of the flowing water will meet. So you change your position slightly away from the tall grasses and just past the trees that are in your view. And there it is. You can see it now. Despite the variety of challenging or unencumbered paths, the waterways all gracefully flow into a lake more spectacular than any other you've ever experienced. Your initial feeling comes purely from your heart. This is how love works, flowing around and through every challenging day and the easy ones too. Love will be there, always and forever. Our reading this morning is excerpted from the proposed new language for Article 2, our Unitarian Universalist Association Covenant, Interdependence. We honor the interdependent web of all existence. With reverence for the great web of life and with humility, we acknowledge our place in it. We covenant to protect Earth and all beings from exploitation. We will create and nurture sustainable relationships of care and respect, mutuality and justice. We will work to repair harm and damaged relationships. Pluralism. We celebrate that we are all sacred beings, diverse in culture, experience, and theology. We covenant to learn from one another in our free and responsible search for truth and meaning. We embrace our differences and commonalities with love, curiosity, and respect.
I guess I have to sit down to be heard at this point. This is a song I wrote in 2007 So some of the facts that are referred to in the song and the issues are not exactly the same as they are today. But with a little bit of imagination, I think you can make connections between this song and what we're dealing with around the world and here. Now, so here we go. It's called Platform for the 21st Century. How are we going to heal our precious planet? Learn to live in peace and harmony. Take a little common sense and reason, leaven them with generosity. How are we going to deal with global warming? Save our cities from the rising sea. Turn down the heat, don't buy gas guzzlers. Everything begins with you and me. How are we going to feed the hungry masses? Level out the global playing field. Selfishness has never been a virtue. Poverty and misery must yield. How are we going to heal our precious planet? Learn to live in peace and harmony. Take a little common sense and reason, loving them with generosity. Mary Beth and Sue got hitched in April. Jeremy and Roger wed in May. Long-term lovers need a little protection. Please don't legislate their rights away. The Holy Book is filled with wisdom, but some of it is rather out of date. Let us not amend the Constitution to divide the gay and straight. How are we going to heal our precious planet? Learn to live in peace and harmony. Take a little common sense and reason, leaven them with generosity. 9/11 scared us, made us angry, caused us to allow the bombs to fly. Now we see the terrors multiplying, making it a cinch that more will die. Martin Luther King and Gandhi taught us violence is something to abhor. Artillery and tanks bring grief and sorrow. Now's the time to end this stupid war. How are we going to heal our precious planet? Learn to live in peace and harmony. Take a little common sense and reason, leaven them with generosity. Thank you.
Thank you, Peggy. Do you know that the United States and I think New Zealand are the only two countries in the world that allow prescription drug advertising? Some of us are old enough to remember when that wasn't allowed. Ask your medical professional if getting medical advice from a TV commercial is right for you. And because it's allowed now, you know that they give you the list of every other effect that it can cause. We like to call those things side effects because they're not the effects that we're going for, but really they're not side effects, they're just other effects of the medication. Take this to clear up your skin. May cause liver damage and sudden death, but hey, you will look great with your clear skin. And the point of all this, for me, is nothing happens in a vacuum, right? I know we have a lot of nurses in here, so, and I keep seeing nurse heads going, But you know, everything affects everything. When I took a class in neurotransmitters in college, because I am that kind of geek, and the professor told us the first rule of neurotransmitters is everything affects everything. Right? And the nurses in here know that you can't just look at one thing in isolation. If somebody's a little low on sodium, you can't just pump sodium in and not look at all the other things, right? Because then what's going to happen? You're going to have a huge imbalance and cause real problems. Everything affects everything. Well, so it is with interdependence. Everything affects everything. Everyone affects everything. Everyone affects everyone else. And this is one of the petals on our new UUA Covenant logo, the Article 2 language that was approved at the last General Assembly and will be approved, I hope, approved again at this General Assembly. And I've been pairing, we've been going over all of these things, and I've paired a couple of them. And the truth is, they could all be paired. I could pick any two and put them together, but I like interdependence and pluralism together, so we're going to be looking at those. And the current language for interdependence is very reminiscent of the seventh principle in the old language, or the language that's still, we're kind of in this liminal space where we have both of them going on, right? The interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part, respect for the interdependent, right? But a lot of people took that to mean, well, we have to care for the environment. Well, we do have to care for the environment, but that's not what interdependence means. That's just a part of it, because beloveds, we are in the environment, and we must care for each other. And there are many reasons to care for the environment. So I know some of you are involved with BLARG, the Brookhaven landfill, something, and there are other things that those letters mean, right? Brookhaven landfill, ash recovery group, okay. What's so important about this landfill organization? Why are people fighting to care for this in the right way? Certainly there are environmental reasons, but beloveds, it's because where do middle class and wealthy, mostly white folks like to dump their trash? In poor communities that often are overwhelmingly Black, Indigenous, and people of color, right? I don't know what to do with this garbage. Put it by those people over there, as if we are not all interconnected, as if how I care or don't care for you has no impact on me. Even if we're just completely selfish, we must care for other people and care for the environment because it impacts me. Me, each one of us, right? It impacts me. None of us can be free until all of us are free. Have you ever heard that? Right? So let's look at this interdependence language. We covenant to protect Earth and all beings from exploitation. We will create and nurture sustainable relationships of care and respect, mutuality, and justice. We will work to repair harm and damaged relationships. We can't pretend to care for our planet while ignoring the plight of individuals, of other humans on our planet. We can't say that racial inequity has to wait because we have a climate crisis. And yet I have heard that sentiment. Have you ever heard that sentiment? Maybe not in those exact words, but have you heard that sentiment ever? We cannot disconnect the two. We must work for justice for everyone, everywhere. And that includes healing our planet. So what does that mean in practice? Well, it means that when we go to meetings and protests and write letters, we have to consider about who is not in the room, who is not at the table. When we go out to dinner and go to a restaurant, you don't have to think about who's not at the table. You order off the menu, you're thinking about yourself. But when we're doing work together, when we're doing work that's not just feeding ourselves, when we're doing work to make things right, we must consider also whose voice is not being heard, who is not at this table. What are the implications of the thing that I'm advocating for? What are the implications that I might not have thought of yet? Well, how do we figure out what we haven't thought of yet if we haven't thought of it yet? Well, that's why we work together. See, that's why a bunch of middle-class white people don't just walk in to a poorer community and say, oh, we know what you need to do about this landfill. Now, some of us grew up in a time where we were taught that we always knew best. White European culture, and can I tell you, Ashkenazi Jewish culture does this in spades. We have grown up believing that good and right are the same thing. That having the right answers, knowing things, makes you good. That's a hard thing to get over. We have to recognize what privilege we have in any situation and make sure we're hearing voices of those who don't have our privilege. Sometimes in organizing, that means taking a step back and saying, you know what, my voice is not the most important voice at this moment. Now, for those of us like me who were born on stage, here I am world, and who have that Hermione Granger, oh, that was me in school. I know that. Why isn't the teacher calling on me? Doesn't she see that I know the answer? Of course she knew I knew the answer, right? We need to put our hands down and hear from other people, because as much as I'm so sure I know the right answer, maybe I don't. Maybe I don't. So as we work together, we learn from each other. And what does it mean then to work? How do I work for justice? And still be an advocate if I'm not running things? We show up and we say, how can I help best? What do you need from me? Anybody here have some Tom's shoes? You know Tom's shoes? They started, when did they start? In the 90s, maybe? And you buy a pair and they give a pair, right? That was the thing. Well, do you know that they got some heat for that? Because they went into communities and said, these children need shoes, these people need shoes, we're going to provide them. And they went into communities and places where people said, whoa, 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 hold up. You think we don't know how to make shoes here? Are you just steamrolling our business? Oh. You ever hear the term toxic charity? Like charity that actually does some harm. They meant to do well. They meant to do good. They were doing well. They meant to do good. But they were doing harm. So to their credit, they said, oh, oops. And then they started partnering with local organizations. So instead of putting people out of business, they were giving people work and saying, what do you need? That's a model for how we do things. And when we know better, we do better, yes? When we know better, we do better. So for those of us with privilege in any situation, the answer is not to come in and say, I know what you need, but to say, what do you need from me? Can we practice that one? What do you need from me? See, you've got this. Great. Now, you know, we all carry different amounts of privilege and different privilege in different situations, yes? Anybody here have absolutely no privilege at all ever in any situation? Right. We all have. For those of you watching at home, nobody raised hands here. We all have some privilege somewhere at some time. Some of us have a lot of privilege most of the time. Some of us have a lot less. That's because we're all really different. We have different circumstances. We have different backgrounds. We have different abilities. And this brings me to our next petal on our New Covenant language, pluralism. Now, growing up in the 1970s, I got a lot of messages, especially from PBS children's shows, about how we're really all the same. Does anybody remember being taught that? We're all the same. I see some hands going up. And that's better than I'm better than everybody else because of the color of my skin and my religion. But it's still problematic. Perhaps not as problematic, but it's still problematic. Why? Because we're not all the same. I was listening to Public Enemy this morning, the rap song Fight the Power. Some of you know that. You know, is that on your Sunday morning playlist? It's on my Get Going playlist. And there's a part in this song that says, we're all the same. No, we're not the same because we don't know the game. I'm not going to do the whole rap for you. First of all, I'm not that talented, but no, we're not the same. We don't know the game. Oh, well, right there, that tells us that we have a lot of inequities in our society, yes? And we talked about equity last week. If you were not here last week, you can find that on our YouTube channel, right? We'll be up soon, if it's not up now. We're not all the same. We have different backgrounds. I mean, yes, we look different. We're different ages, we know that. But we also have different backgrounds, different cultures, different foods from those different cultures, different ways of doing things, different ways of navigating the world, different abilities, different interests, different likes. Lots of differences. And now some congregations want to talk about diversity, and when they talk about diversity, what they are aiming for on a superficial level is what I call hues in the pews. Look, see? We have black people in our congregation. We have Asian people in our congregation. Okay. But how do we, who are mostly white people, this is an overwhelmingly white tradition, and I know not everybody here is white, but mostly white, mostly middle class. I know not everybody here is middle class, but mostly middle class. How do we welcome in people who are not white, cis, gender people into our congregations? Well, I'll give you a hint. We're not always super good at it. Sometimes we send the message that's very clear. You are absolutely welcome here. We're so glad you're here. You're completely welcome, as long as you do things our way. All theologies are welcome here. Oh, except that one. This is not a congregation of what I call God counters, but we have those, you know what I mean? The people who come up to the minister after the service and say, "You said God 3 times today." I'm glad you're laughing, but I'm telling you that happens. How welcoming is that to folks who are theologically liberal Christians who want to check us out? To Muslims who also feel pulled toward us, to theists of lots of different stripes who want to be here. How welcome are we when we say to somebody, "Oh, and you don't have to dress up fancy next week," because somebody chose to wear a coat and tie? I've seen that happen. Not here. Again, I haven't seen it here. You're doing good with that. But I've seen this happen. And what are we saying to people? First of all, we're assuming that that person is not working class, that that's a weekday type of outfit. We're assuming that that person, we made all kinds of assumptions, right? Sometimes people dress up on Sundays because it's the only day in the week that they have that opportunity to do that. And what have we just told that person? Stay in your work clothes. And that's just as bad. That's just as bad as saying to somebody, "Oh, but please don't wear jeans here next week." Now, I've never heard that in a UU congregation. Have you? But can you imagine telling somebody that? I'm giving you examples of things that I haven't seen here because I want you to think about those and think about what ways maybe have you been less than completely welcoming of a really pluralistic society. The Article 2 language says we celebrate that we are all sacred beings, diverse in culture, experience, and theology. I mean, how exciting is that? We covenant to learn from one another in our free and responsible search for truth and meaning. We embrace our differences and commonalities with love, curiosity, and respect. Remember, love is at the center of all we do, yes? So, how are we, Unitarian Universalists, embracing our differences and celebrating that? And how can we do it better? What's one thing, I'm going to give you some more homework this week, what's one thing you can do to do this work better? To welcome somebody better, or to learn better from one another? Now, in the Unitarian Universalist Association, and I know, how many of you have actually been to General Assembly? How many have been in person? Oh, quite a number. And how many have been online? A few more, yeah, okay. So if you've been over the years, you know, sometimes we have a little discomfort around how we do the business of our association. And our polity, how we govern ourselves, is congregational. That means we're bottom up. The power is from the congregation. We freely associate with other congregations to make up our Unitarian Universalist Association. A congregation calls its own minister. You're going to do that soon. Are you excited? Excited? Maybe excited? I don't know. I don't know what's coming, right? But you're going to do that soon. Congregations call their own ministers. Congregations ordain ministers. And congregations send delegates to the General Assembly. The General Assembly is the highest body in our association. Oh, I'm sorry. That was. I'm trying not to cough and I got to learn how to do that better. Yeah. Okay. You can turn me back on now. That was my mistake. All right. So we've been trying some new ways in the General Assembly of doing the governance, of doing the work, moving away from Robert's rules. Oh, no. Why are we moving away from Robert's rules? Because Robert's rules were good for the time they were written and for the people they were written, but sometimes we let the rules rule us and we use them as a hammer. And it's, again, they're very Eurocentric. And I'm amazed at the number of congregations. There are quite a few congregations, not a majority, but quite a number who've put in their bylaws, including you, we will use Robert's rules for all of our meetings. Why? Why? I mean, do we need to have rules to govern our meetings? Yeah, but do they have to be Robert's rules? When we welcome in people who don't have our Eurocentric middle-class backgrounds, sometimes we learn that there are other ways of doing these things. And they end up working better. So the UUA gave up using Robert's rules. And at first, a lot of people, mostly white people, were kind of uncomfortable with this. Like, there's no pro microphone and no con microphone. What are we going to do? But we've tried some other things, and what we found is that people actually started listening better to one another. They felt more heard, and they listened to more. I say they, I was part of that. I was there. And so what else? What else can we learn, and how else can we grow if we let go of some of these certainties? Perhaps you had literal growing pains when you were growing up as a child. When our bones are growing very fast, it can actually hurt. Some of us are having a hard time remembering back that far, but maybe you did, right? Growth hurts. Growth hurts. The growing edge is always the tender edge. And we make mistakes. And especially those of us with a very Eurocentric attitude, we don't like making mistakes because, again, we've equated right with good. So if I make a mistake, I am wrong and therefore bad. But being wrong is not bad. If you're a fan of the Magic School Bus, you know Miss Frizzle always says, make mistakes. Make mistakes because we learn from them. But growth hurts. So sometimes what we need to do is to sit in our discomfort in order to grow. So I'm going to ask you to sit in your discomfort at times in order to grow. What does that mean? It means asking yourself some questions. Doing what you need to do to care for yourself as best you can in that situation without running away from it. I find turning to wonder helps a lot. I wonder what's going to happen when we try this out. Getting comfortable with failure. What? That is, getting comfortable with the idea that I'm going to try this out and it's probably not going to work, but let's see what happens. If it does work, bonus. If it doesn't work, we're not crushed because we already planned for that. We're just trying it out. Beloveds, I think you're already well on your way. You're doing a lot right already. So my question to you is not what are you doing wrong, but what can you do even better? Can you do that for homework this week? What can I do even better? What can UUFSB do as a congregation even better? I know that you are going to be one of the most beautiful flowers in the UUA garden. Namaste.
At each service, it is our spiritual practice to take a collection which we share with a local organization working for a more just future. But occasionally, in response to national or international, In response to national or international crises, we choose to partner with a group working more globally. And this month, in keeping with the spirit of our 30 Days of Love and in response to the growing concerns about the humanitarian crises brought about by the recent horrific conflicts in the Middle East and Eastern Europe, we will share our plate with Doctors Without Borders, known internationally as Médecins Sans Frontières, aka MSF. Doctors Without Borders is providing independent, impartial medical humanitarian assistance to people who need it most, people affected by conflict, disease, outbreaks, natural and human-made disasters, and exclusion from healthcare, and in more than 72 countries and territories, which now include Gaza and Ukraine. Often the first and only ones to arrive on the scene and the last to leave, whether the situation is in the news or not, and regardless of personal risk, they have always been independent, impartial, and neutral, guided by universal medical ethics, committed to bearing witness and to diversity, equity, and inclusion as they remain transparent and accountable. So, let's do our part together. You may make your gifts in the plate or online, and for those online, the link to donate is in the comments. Your gifts will be gratefully received and used well.
When we were young, we listened to our elders. They said, don't act too clever for your age. We We mastered all our numbers and our letters and waited for our turn upon the stage. Don't count us out, we still have things we need to say. Don't count us out, though we are bald or white or gray. Don't count us out, we do not plan to fade away. Don't count us out, don't count us out, don't count us out. Now some of us grew up to fight in battle, and some of us protested against the war. But afterward we mostly came together, found peace was what we all were fighting for. Don't count us out, we still have things we need to say. Don't count us out, though we are bald or white or gray. Don't count us out, we do not plan to fade away. Don't count us out, don't count us out, don't count us out. The decades they flew by, it's been 210, and here we are today, divided once again. Some say the world's descending into chaos. We see it on our channels every night. But we who've been through struggles and survived them can be among the ones to set things right. Don't count us out, we still have things we need to say. Don't count us out, though we are bald or white or gray. Don't count us out, we do not plan to fade away. Don't count us out, don't count us out, don't count us out. Don't count us out, we still have things we need to say. Don't count us out, though we are bald or white or gray. Don't count us out, we simply cannot fade away. Don't count us out, don't count us out, don't count us out.
Thank you. I invite you to join in the words of the dedication of our offering. The words are in your order of service, either on paper or if you use the QR code. To the work of our faith, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action, we dedicate our lives and these our offerings. Amen. I invite you to rise in body or spirit and join in singing our final hymn, number 1054 in the teal hymnal. 1064, there you go, 1064 in the teal hymnal, Blue Boat Home. Beloveds, go in peace, go in love, knowing that you are connected to everything and everyone that is or ever was. Go in the beauty of our pluralistic garden and go always in the footsteps of the holy. Amen. And now we extinguish our chalice flame. For our worship has ended and our service begins. Beloveds, have a seat, and I invite you to wave goodbye to the folks at home through the camera on your left.
Just are seeking justice. The meek are reaching out for something only children can really know about. And some men cry for mercy while they deny their brother's pain. And some folks laugh for reasons they can never quite explain. And we are all in this together. And maybe we'll see that one day, when we conquer our fears together, when we finally find a way. And we all need forgiving for all the damage done, for the things we do not thinking, for the hurt that we've caused someone. And me, I'll keep on living, caught somewhere in between the reason and the meaning, the vision and the dream. And we are all in this together. Maybe we'll see that one day, when we conquer our fears together, when we finally find a way, when we conquer our fears together, when we finally find a way, a way.